Hey, that buck we saw this morning was cruising across this field behind us.
Middle of December here. We got a little cold front coming this weekend. It should be awesome hunting. We got 5 days. We're exploring new ground. Kansas, here we come. Actually, here we are, because we just crossed the border.
This trip has been out of control. The hunting has been unreal.
Tag and Brag Nation, welcome back to another episode of After the Chase. We're kind of at that tipping point of the season where we're going back downhill. It is post-rut week, and unfortunately, we came out of rut week with only one doe tag filled. It was a little bit of an off year. We passed a lot more deer than we typically do. And honestly, the latter part of November for us was even slower than rut week. November came and went, rifle season came and went, and it was tough, it seemed like we were always waiting for that rut to click on and for the deer to fire up, and it just never happened. And the farther and farther that we got into November, Dean and I are kind of looking in the mirror at ourselves going, what are we doing? What can we be doing more? And it was kind of a head scratcher because, to be completely honest, up until this point in the season, it was probably one of our slowest seasons in the last decade. And we're, trying new things, trying different tactics, trying to break the mold and just fire something up. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So November has come and gone. At this time of year, it's Thanksgiving. We're moving into Christmas. We're typically spending a little bit less time in the woods, more time with family and friends as we celebrate the holidays. But I was fortunate enough to draw a Kansas tag for the first year and the first time ever. And Dean and I had planned to go to Kansas in mid-December, and that was kind of a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel for us. Even though our season was kind of going down in the dumps, or at least that's what it felt like from a hunting standpoint, we still had a trip planned to Kansas. Kansas is a coveted spot, probably our number one whitetail bucket list destination for Dean and myself. And we're excited, It's funny how this whole Kansas thing came about. We actually got a message on Instagram, and it was from our now very good buddy and what we could call a brother at this point, Parker, who has a small outfitting business in Kansas. He had a cool story to tell. He's a emphatical shed hunter, and he was shed hunting that previous year, and he actually found human remains. So we had him on the podcast. Super cool story. After an hour and a half or so of cutting up with Parker, it was as if we had known each other forever, to be completely honest. We were like-minded in so many different ways, and it didn't take long, and he invited us to come out to hunt. He's like, you guys should put in for a tag, and you can come out and hunt with me this year. So I applied early, and I got my application in. I'm like, you know what? How many of these opportunities come to you in your lifetime where a state that you've dreamed about hunting, a place that you could have never imagined having the opportunity to go, is now right in front of you. There's a person who is welcoming you with open arms to come and embrace this and come and enjoy something that you've only watched on TV, and it was kind of a pipe dream. It seemed unrealistic to ever go hunt in Kansas for us. The opportunity's right there. There's only one answer, and the answer is yes. So I embraced that opportunity, finally talked Dean into applying, and unfortunately, he didn't draw a tag, but I did, and we were so pumped to go to Kansas. Dean and I get to go on this adventure together. We get to explore uncharted territories for us, and we get to explore a place that we have only dreamed about hunting since we were very, very young, watching monster bucks on TV.
The Kansas prairies calling our name. Hello, cuckoo! Calling us out there. This is a first for us. Dave drew a tag. I'm just the camera biatch for the trip, but pull my leg to go to Kansas. Shit. But we sent a couple cameras out here. Parker put them out for us, so we've been watching cameras for, I don't know, the last month out here. Just picked the time to go, and it's middle of December here. We got a little cold front coming this weekend. It should be awesome hunting. We got 5 days. We're exploring new ground. Kansas, here we come. Actually, here we are, because we just crossed the border.
So here we are in mid-December rolling out to Kansas, and man, it just feels right on a season that has been so tough. And there's been so many opportunities that may have slipped through our fingers, or there's just been opportunities that we've passed in order to let bucks grow a little bit bigger. But the success hasn't necessarily been there for Dean and I as it has in the past. And we are now loaded up in the truck, both of us heading to Kansas, and I can't explain how right it feels. Dean and I are together. The energies are flowing. We feel like we're getting the mojo back, and this could be just the perfect way to cap off what has been a very difficult season for the two of us. And as we get to Kansas, Parker is, I think, even more excited for us to get in a tree and experience his part of this world than we were. So we get into camp, we unload all of our stuff into the Airbnb. Dean and I are kind of thinking, well, we'll get up the next morning, we'll drive around, Parker will kind of show us the area and maybe do some glassing, see some deer, scout a little bit for an evening hunt. But Parker was like, no, boys. I'm excited. I know you're excited, and I've got just the stand for you guys to go climb up into. So the next morning, we had to prepare to get our hunting stuff together, get all of our camera gear together, and mentally prepare to go navigate to a stand that we've never been to before in the dark. But the caveat was we were going to be in a tree within hours in a dream state of Kansas.
We just got set up in Kansas, and Dino tapped me on the shoulder, and we already got deer running in. Ain't that just beautiful? Your boys are in Kansas. This is surreal. I have goosebumps. This is truly, you all are witnessing a dream that is coming true right before your eyes. This is America. This is the land of opportunity. It's the reason that we're here. But your boys have been dreaming of hunting Kansas since we were 6, 7, 8 years old, watching Waddell and the gang come out here and just lay the hammer on Kansas giants. Honestly, where we grew up hunting in Western New York, when we watched Kansas, it was surreal to us. The bucks were surreal, the scenery, the amount of deer, the calling, the activity, it was all surreal to us. It was like a made-up fairy tale, fairyland world that didn't exist in the world that we lived in. But we're freaking here. Well, it is insane. We're on this little hedgerow, tree row. We got CRP on our behind me. There's a little winter wheat field due north. We got some cut beans behind us, I think. I don't know what that is behind us, but there's cover all around, and we're just glassing these portions of cover. We've been in the stand for a half hour. It's wild. We're in freaking Kansas, bro. Kansas. I don't know what else to say other than we're just gonna soak in every second out here, relish in the moment, enjoy this beautiful, beautiful country, and yeah, thank God for this opportunity, because this is pretty incredible. We got 5 days of whitetail hunting in Kansas. I don't really know what else to say.
There's another deer.
Number 7.
There's another deer standing right there.
He's cruising. Yeah, that's a nice deer. Did he go behind all that shit?
Oh, I see him. Yeah, he's walking the edge.
In the shadow? Oh yeah.
He's kind of banana curling towards us.
You still see him?
No.
That first morning in Kansas was awesome. We saw a boatload of deer, and this is the second week in December. It felt like a mid-November hunt. Coming from up northeast, you know, a lot of the hunts at that time, you're seeing deer right at last light or first light in the morning, and that's it. The daylight activity is pretty slim. But we quickly realized in Kansas, if the weather is right, that is not the case. And it really got us excited for the week to come, seeing all these deer throughout the day. We sat till probably 10:30 or 11 o'clock because around 9 or 9:30, we caught a shooter, a really nice buck, working through this winter wheat field, and he kind of seemed like he was coming back towards us, but a lot of the deer that we saw kind of funneled down in front of us into this thicket. So based on the information that we gathered on that first hunt, Parker had actually suggested that we go set up a blind a couple hundred yards over the hill from where we were in the tree stand and where a lot of the deer were going to just get a little bit closer to their bedding area. So we grabbed the trail camera, we grabbed the blind, and we went down and set up this blind in preparation for the next morning's hunt. With all of the activity that we had in this spot around the tree stand in the morning and then setting up the blind midday, we decided, let's go see a different farm. Let's go hunt a different area for the evening. Let this settle down, and we had plans to come back to that blind the next morning. Well, we get into this stand in the evening, and it is an awesome river bottom, hardwoods, Kansas setup. It looked like an amazing spot, and I'm sure it is. We were just there on the wrong afternoon, and contrary to what we saw in the beginning of the day, we got skunked that afternoon. So that really didn't bother us. We're still riding the high from the morning. We're excited about getting into the blind the next morning and what could be for the rest of the days to come on this hunt. So we navigate to the blind the next morning, which was very difficult in the dark. And it was a very long walk into this blind. We got in the dark, we got set up. The movement was kind of slow right off the bat, and then mid-morning it picked back up. And we started seeing deer pretty much left and right. And then what we didn't expect to happen was we looked out the back of the blind and we saw multiple bucks up on the hill, probably 100, 120 yards behind us, and they were making their way in our direction. Now, these 4 or 5 bucks made their way down to us. None of them were shooters, a couple nice up-and-comers, but they kind of walked their way down to us. They could definitely see the blind, and they weren't so sure about it, kind of weary. They didn't spook hard, but they didn't love what they saw. So with that being said, we got out once again, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, and gave Parker the news. We were going to let that spot settle down another day or two, and we were going to hang an XOP where Parker had been getting some really nice bucks on camera the past couple days, and it was a new property for him and for us. So we walk in there and we get up, we get this XOP hung. It's an awesome set in this CRP and on the edge of a row crop field. Not really sure what to expect for the afternoon, but we're not wasting any hunting time in Kansas, so we're going to get in a tree and we're going to see what happens.
There's a doe way across the field. She just popped out. She literally just got up. She's shaking off and
Good bucks from this donkey.
oh yeah. Looks like pretty good bucks, right?
Mm-hmm. Dude, that might be that 9-point. It is.
Yeah, it is.
It's him. Man, those are two nice bucks. That is freaking him, dude. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy. He said he's never seen him.
Never seen that deer.
Well, that's 100% him.
Yeah, you could see the kicker. Man, that's a nice buck, too.
Yeah, they're both nice deer.
Holy shit.
There might be more in there. I don't know.
Holy shit. Two bruisers back there.
Yeah, that 9 is a tank, dude.
Oh my gosh, he's a tank. Wow. Two freaking bruisers. Two freaking bruisers. Whew. And you guys, there are two really nice bucks. In the field back here. Cameras are starting to pop. There's a couple bucks on their feet elsewhere as well. It's got me already just a little. That 9-point Parker's never seen on the hoof. He's a massive deer. Huge body deer. Kansas got me all sorts of sugar. All sorts of sugar.
So Dean and I are sitting in the stand, and we had seen probably 6 or 7 does come out into this winter wheat field. We were watching them, and next thing we know, Dean spots a buck coming out of the brush on the other side of this winter wheat field, and he steps out, really nice 9-point, and out behind him is a giant monarch of a Kansas whitetail. It's a buck that Parker has shown us pictures of, but he has never seen on the hoof. They ended up coming out of the thicket together, but they actually split and went 2 different directions, feeding across this field. And the behavior kind of showed us that, you know, these deer are kind of are coming off the rut. Obviously, it's mid-December, and they're solely focused on the food. They couldn't have been bedded far from where we watched them come out of the brush at, and they were just on their feet the last half hour or so. And, you know, like I said, they kind of split and went their separate ways. We actually thought the original buck that came out, the 9-point, may make his way across the field to us in time for us to get a shot. He made his way across the field, but unfortunately, he went into the woods about 150 yards away, and we didn't really see many deer after that. But quite honestly, we really didn't need to. After that evening hunt, we went back and we kind of told Parker the story. He couldn't believe it. He was absolutely elated, and unfortunately, we could not go back into that same spot for a morning hunt. So our plan was to get into the XOP that we had hung the afternoon before. It was kind of a shot in the dark. It was a new property for Parker and for us, and we were just going to go in there and see if we could get a buck to present us with an opportunity. So we get in to this stand. It is a picture perfect morning in the whitetail woods, and it didn't take long. Right after first light, this 8-point that we had been watching on camera comes out of the thicket into the CRP. He kind of reads the script. Coulda, shoulda, woulda shot the deer. It just, he didn't get my blood pumping. He didn't get my blood boiling. It's not what I came to Kansas for. Beautiful buck, beautiful encounter. He gave us an opportunity. We passed it up. No harm, no foul. We actually ended up seeing probably close to another 20 deer that morning. We saw another beautiful 10-point come across this winter wheat field, jump the fence 25 yards in front of us, literally read the script. I could have shot him too. So it was 2 encounters that morning that we passed up. This time of year, you know, you're typically hunting the weather patterns. You're looking for a cold front. You're looking for anything that's going to spark the deer to get up onto their feet during daylight hours and go to food. Right now, we are focused solely on food. That seems to be where the deer want to go to or where they're coming from. And is there a chance that we could see a second rut or deer that are acting like, you know, they're in a second rut? Sure. But that's not the tactics that we were honing in on. All of our cameras were on food sources. We were focused in on hunting close to food sources or the transition areas from bed to food, and it was working for us. So given the fact that we saw those 2 really good bucks the night before, we decided to go back to that same stand that we had saw those 2 big bucks in the night before.
Well, it's been a very productive day. We had a great morning. We saw upwards of 30 deer. The buck that we went in there to see and, you know, decide on was the first deer we saw. He came through, and he just wasn't quite there yet, and that's okay. We went in there, we hung a stand, we got in unscathed, saw him, he got out of there, we got out of there, all good things. And now, tonight, we're in the spot. This is the land of the giants. We saw 2 really good bucks here last night. Parker has never seen the one buck that I nicknamed Aldine. And man, it would be awesome to see him again. We just figured, come back here, the wind is good, the bucks are here, and I mean, the one buck in particular went all the way across the field. If they decide to make a move and come this way, we could be in the chips. So it's been a grind this trip. It's been a grind, but it's been awesome. We're actually only at the halfway point as far as hunts go right now. So we're at the halfway point right now. A lot has happened in 2.5 days, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the time here in Kansas. This is an absolute whitetail hunter's paradise. We're blessed to be here, grateful to be here, and doing it with Dino in the tree and just grinding it out together. Literally the whole trip has made the trip for me. So we got an awesome hunt in store. We got an awesome evening in store for us regardless. High pressure, blue skies, birds are chirping. Hopefully the deer are walking. I feel good. I feel real good, actually.
seen 7 deer already, so I got about 45 minutes left. Wind is dying down significantly. Oh, here comes the buck. See him? In the corner? Yeah, right out of the pines. Not the corner, all the way across, Dean. Yeah, I see him. Okay. He's out there. One right up on top. These 5 doe are making their way down right here, right in front of us. And the buck just crested the hill way up there, and he now looks like he's coming this way.
So we get up in the stand. It was a little bit of a slow evening. Once again, we saw a bunch of does in the winter wheat field, and the cut beans actually had a bunch of does in it too that were making their way in our direction. We actually saw another really nice buck in the distance. It wasn't either of the bucks that we had seen the night before, which was cool to see another what looked like potential shooter on this property, but he was kind of just aimlessly feeding in the cut beans as well. The doe actually made their way a couple 100 yards across this field and ended up within bow range of us, and the buck didn't follow. And so as fun as it was seeing all of these deer, I mean, we were seeing so many deer every hunt besides the first afternoon, we couldn't get within 100 yards or so, or we hadn't gotten within 100 yards or so of one of these shooter bucks that we were after. And so we decided to change it up for the next morning. We were going to go back to the same stand that we had hunted the first morning just to observe, see what was going on in the winter wheat field, see what was coming through the CRP, and make a plan to potentially get closer to one of these shooter bucks.
Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful morning in Kansas, imagine that. We're back in the same spot that we hunted the very first morning we were here. This was our intro to Kansas right here. And this morning's already been a whirlwind. We had an 8-point come in behind us. Do a circle around us. We just had another buck circling behind us, and I think there's like 5 bucks in the cut corner a couple 100 yards away. It's a buck parade this morning, I guess, which is a good thing. Dead still this morning. It's gonna make it a little bit tough, but it's cold again, below 30 when we got in here, and we're still grinding, baby. We got 2 more days in Kansas, and we are gonna grind it out until the finish. We got deer on their feet already this morning, and that can only mean good things.
And oh, they are, dude. It's a couple nice bucks.
They're pinned, dude. There's like, how many bucks are in there? 6?
I don't know, but there's a couple good ones.
Man, there's a receptive doe for sure. And there's gotta be 5 to 6 bucks pinned on her. Or the bigger one is on her, and the other ones are just lurking.
Dude, I think there's like, I think like 2 or 3 of them are big deer.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I see the doe now. Cause the big one, yeah, the doe's left of the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Or what I think is the big one, and he's not letting the other ones. Yeah, look at, he's running at her. He's chasing her. Oh. He's looking this way. She disappeared, but she might have run kind of
This way.
a little bit. Because he's facing us now. He's about to.
Let's take this party over here, fellas.
Maybe they're bumping their way this way.
Oh yeah, I see them. They're kind of going right to left, or left to right, I mean.
Yeah.
That's that. That looks like the bigger 8 that he sent us, that he showed us pictures of. Yeah, that's a freaking stud. Damn it.
That's another nice buck.
What?
I think that's that 8 with the almost the 10.
Where?
He's going up that hedgerow.
Away?
No, not at us, but going up to the north. Up that hedgerow.
Okay.
He's going into this thicket.
Okay. This has been insane. We've seen 8 to 10 bucks. We've seen 3 or 4, 4 shooters. I don't even know how many deer we've seen. Maybe close to 20 at this point. But there's a hot doe in here. We just had a shooter cruise behind us, and it looked like he was cruising like on a doe or something. He came to this patch behind us, the same buck that we saw the first morning. Really nice deer, really cool buck. But I mean, these deer are acting like it's freaking mid-November right now. Just with the way that they're moving, and it's crazy. I'm not complaining. But man, when you've come from New York and Ohio and Tennessee, where we just have not seen many bucks, many deer in general, this is a delicious and tasty treat. This is insane. Yeah, I feel like regardless of what happens, we have to come back here tonight. Unless we kill in the next hour or so, like, we have to come back here.
Man, that morning, were we in for a treat. We had no idea what we were about to walk into, but right off the bat, once again, we started seeing deer in every different direction. We saw a good buck behind us. We had a decent little 8-point cruise right in front of us. And then, I would say an hour or so into our hunt, Dean spotted 6 bucks far in this winter wheat field, and we couldn't tell what they were doing. They were all together, which is not uncommon this time of year for the bucks to start grouping back up together after the rut. But it just didn't seem like they were feeding in the winter wheat field, and we couldn't figure out. We're trying to glass through the trees and figure out what they were doing. And finally, when it all came together, they had started moving closer to us in our direction. We realized that these 6 bucks had one doe pinned in any little cover spot throughout this winter wheat field, And the biggest 10 point out of them all, there were 3 shooters in the group, 3 shooters out of the 6 bucks that were following this one doe. But the biggest one, this 10 point, was literally fending off all 5 of the other bucks and not letting them anywhere near this doe. And this poor doe was going from little cover pocket to little cover pocket with her tail tucked between her legs, and all the bucks were chasing her. She would leave one cover pocket and sprint to the other one, and all the bucks would chase her. Now, the 10 point was trying to fend them off while chasing her. This went on for an hour and a half. An hour and a half, we watched these bucks in the middle of the wide open going back and forth with this doe on December 12th, like it was November 12th in the middle of the rut. And it literally clicked at that point that this doe is hot. She ain't going anywhere. These bucks aren't going anywhere because they're staying with her until one or all of them or whatever happens, whoever breeds them breeds her. And it was insane. We could not believe our eyes. I mean, we could not believe our eyes. It was bar none the best hunt that we had had so far in Kansas. It was arguably the best hunt that we had had all year long. And there was no question getting out of the tree that morning after the dust had settled that we were going to get back up into that tree that evening because we wanted to be able to see the winter wheat field from where we were at up on the hill, as opposed to getting in the blind down lower where you couldn't really see as much. And because we wanted to observe what was going on, if the doe was going to come back out, if she was going to be chased by those bucks again. And we knew all these bucks were in the area, and it's only a matter of time for the deer to come up towards us to the food where we would get an opportunity.
Well, had the best rut morning that we've had all year, and it's December 12th. What do you say about that? That 10 point's a big deer. He's a hell of a deer. Very large. We had to come back here, but we come here, and it seems like every buck in Kansas is running around this valley through the CRP, through the cut corn, winter wheat, all that good stuff. And it just takes one of them or that doe to run on over here and hang out. They literally came from 360 degrees around us this morning, so
They did.
there's no telling what could happen this afternoon. Come on, big fella. Come on, big fella. You can do it. Take a walk on over here. I know you can. First couple deer out onto the winter wheat field out here. A couple of them keep staring back into the woods like something's meandering down in there. Well, there's deer that are. Looks like a small buck that's going into the peninsula.
Yeah, he's chasing those doe around.
Oh, there's another. Oh, damn. It's got to be one of those bucks that just came out from us to him. See him? Oh my God, there's deer flying around everywhere down there.
It's like a unicorn half-rack.
Yeah, he was with those.
Oh, that ate one out into that field. Yeah. Oh, he's right where that other half-rack is. He's got his head down eating. Oh, the 10 just popped all the way up top. Oh, that's actually, yeah, way to the right of where he went in.
Well, we're watching a boatload of deer out in this winter wheat field. That 10 point came out. Way up top, he's going way back in there now. But he's off the dough. That's interesting. We got another shooter 8 point down in this field. He was unfortunately feeding in front of our blind for a little while. Well, fortunately, but unfortunately, he wasn't here. But it's the games you play.
That buck we saw this morning was cruising across this field behind the stakes. Left or right to left. Yeah, it's that one that we saw. Flashes of. He came out of the cedars, he's going right to left, right across the field. Oh, you heard it. You did. Oh, yeah. Nope. Heard it again. Huh? You heard it again. Alright, he ain't coming. Maybe it's not a shooter then.
That's a nice deer.
He wants to go right where he came from last night. Or this morning. That's cool. I'm shocked he heard that.
So that evening, we get back up into the same tree, and we have another absolutely amazing hunt. We had to have seen 30 plus deer. We saw multiple shooters, but the hardest part was they just weren't coming close enough to us. And the deer, based on the trail camera photos and videos that we were getting, seemed to be getting used to the blind that we had put up a couple hundred yards closer to the bedding area on the first day of the hunt. We had a decision to make. It's very difficult to get into this blind in the mornings, and the tree stand was giving us a lot of action in the mornings. It just seemed like nothing was coming, particularly close. Now, that is easily subject to change. As we all know, in the whitetail woods, things can change very quickly. Things can change in an instant. So for the last day of our hunt, we decided rather than push the envelope and try and go get in the blind in the dark and potentially spook deer and ruin the entire day of hunting on that piece of property, we were going to just sneak into the stand, observe, and hope that maybe we could get a shot that morning and really prepare for that evening in the blind if it came down to it. Well, that morning, lo and behold, we had a shooter on camera in front of the blind in daylight. We also had a shooter come up through the CRP field and kind of skirted us at about 70 or 80 yards, jumped the fence, went into the cut beans behind us, and linked up with a couple does. And unfortunately, as all that was happening, a truck pulls in on a neighboring property. And I don't know if they knew that we were hunting or not, but they pull in, they spook the deer out of the field. The one shooter goes running off into the woods, and this guy seemingly decides to pull back literally into the field right next to the one that we're hunting on, and he's driving through the field. At this point, it's kind of clear that he knows we're there, that he may be trying to disrupt our hunt at that point. And unfortunately, after that, the deer movement was pretty minuscule. We saw a couple other deer far off. We did decide to sit it out for the rest of the morning. I mean, we are in Kansas and we are down to limited time at this point. But with that all being said, and with that happening, we got out of the stand a little bit earlier that morning so that we could prepare and get back in the woods a little bit earlier in the afternoon. That morning hunt was kind of a wash, and all of our eggs were in one basket. There is no place that we would rather be than the blind that we set up on the first day of the hunt. We knew the deer were in that bedding area. They were on camera in daylight that morning, and normally this time of year, when the deer are on camera in the daylight in the morning, in all likelihood they're not laying very far away. So we had extremely high hopes going in to our last hunt of the trip in this blind and riding it out close to the bedding area in hopes that the shooter would jump the fence and give us an opportunity.
All right, the final showdown here with my main bro, Dino. We in the blind. I don't know what to say. I mean, this trip has been out of control in so many ways, and the hunting has been unreal. You guys have seen that this entire trip, but we're going to try and end it off with a bang. We set up this blind like 3 days ago, and the deer finally seemed to be getting comfortable with it. We had a shooter out in front of here yesterday before dark, and really the big 10 point that we're after was down here right as the sun was coming up this morning. We actually saw him. We caught flashes of him in this little thicket that we're in. So we came down here, we're hunkered down. We're gonna try and be as quiet as possible because it is so dead still. It's insane. But the pressure is sky high. It's like 30.5 something. So with any luck, these deer will be on their feet a little early tonight, and hopefully we can get a glimpse of one of these shooters out in front of this blind. It would be awesome to cap off what has already been an incredible trip with an arrow released and a buck in the truck. December 13th. Could I film my first buck tag? Well, could we film our first buck tag of the season between the two of us? I sure hope so. I'm looking forward to the last little bit of this afternoon, though. It should be good. I'm sorry, dude. There you go, man. Sorry. What'd you hit? I hit that tree. I pulled the shit out of it. God, it was so fucking big, man.
It's alright, dude. That was a tough situation, man.
Gosh, damn it. Why did I do that? Just stay calm. They're not. I know. So stupid.
Oh man, you guys, what an absolute heartbreaker, you know, especially after the season that we've had and the grind that we've been on, and we never give up. That's not in our nature. To be in Kansas, to have the hunt that we had in Kansas, it seemed like every day got a little better. Every day brought another opportunity, another cool encounter. And man, to have that opportunity right in front of you and to clip a branch, the arrow never even made it to the deer. Man, it was gut-wrenching. I felt it for me. I felt it for Dean. I felt it for our whole crew that was rooting us on while we were out there. And, you know, hunting is filled with the ultimate highs and the ultimate lows. And unfortunately, as a hunter, you will experience both. That's just the nature of the beast. So it was certainly one that I took on the chin pretty hard. I'm very hard on myself in my preparation. I'm hard on myself in shooting my bow and shooting it to the best of my abilities, not only for myself, but for the animals that we're hunting. And in that moment, when it was presented to me to come up empty, I'd be lying to you to say that I wasn't gutted and that I wasn't beside myself, that I wasn't extremely upset, frustrated, and the whole 9 yards. All the while, you know, you've got to keep it in perspective. You know, Dean and I are in Kansas. We're two brothers literally living out a dream. We've got Parker and his wife Shauna that have accepted us in with open arms, that have allowed us to come enjoy what they've created for themselves and for their family. And the whole hunt was a joy. And now that I can take a little step back from it, you know, I know that everything happens for a reason. There was a reason that deer wasn't supposed to die that day. There's a reason that I wasn't supposed to fill a tag that day. It makes me and it makes us even hungrier to now go back and really to start this upcoming season. And, you know, the good news is that it was a clean miss. The deer wasn't wounded. He ran off. He's totally fine. Actually got one of his sheds. So to prove that he's all right, and you know, I'm extremely happy about that, and I'm grateful for the trip in general. This Kansas trip has been so unbelievable for us. We've gotten to experience a place that we never thought we would get to experience in our lifetime. We've learned literally every single day of this hunt. We experienced deer movement and deer activity like we have never seen before, especially rut activity that we experienced in the middle of December, some of which we've never experienced before in November. So, wow, the trip as a whole, I mean, how could you beat it? How could you beat it? And with the gut-wrenching feeling that I have, and with the pit in my stomach after that miss, it's hard not to, you know, be pissed off and mad at yourself. But at the same time, the cool part about this whole trip is that none of the good was overshadowed by that miss. Like, we are so grateful for that opportunity, for the relationship that we've built with Parker and his family now, and for the opportunities that we have in future years to go out there and continue on that Kansas journey and eventually actually notch a tag. And with that heartfeltness of the night before. I mean, Parker, I think he wore it harder than I did. He wanted it just as bad, if not more, for us, than we did. So Dean and him both convinced me, go get back in the blind for a couple hours in the morning and go see if that deer, maybe, it's fate and you get a second opportunity, but you certainly won't know unless you try. So as hard as it was to pick up the pieces, we packed up the truck and we packed up all of our stuff that night in preparation to get on the road the next day. And Dean and I were extremely tired mentally and physically, but we picked up the pieces and we got back in the blind for a bonus hunt and one last opportunity on this trip. Well, the morning was fairly slow until about the last half hour of our morning, and Dean spotted a buck coming out of the winter wheat. At first glance, we thought it was a shooter, and unfortunately, it was a deer that Parker had taken off the hit list literally the night or maybe 2 nights before. This deer literally came in and he read the script. He jumped the fence. He gave us a show at 25 yards. He actually walked closer to the blind and got within 10 yards of the blind on an arguably marginal wind for this spot, and ended up literally walking. We watched him walk up through the CRP and go about his business. And it was, it was tough because, it was a chip shot, and it was kind of the redemption opportunity that I would have loved to go home with. But at the same time, I completely respect the standards that are set on properties that aren't ours. You don't get the caliber of deer to hunt unless you have a pecking order and a standard to go by. So I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. This trip was absolutely amazing. We've got another best friend and what feels like a family member in Parker now. Dean and I each drew Kansas tags for this year, so you can bet your bottom dollar that we are super stoked to get back and explore the land that is literally a deer hunter's paradise and a deer hunter's heaven. We are so blessed for this opportunity. We're so blessed for this hunt, and it was probably the perfect way to end what was a very difficult season for us, and to leave us even a little bit hungrier than we were when we got there to start the 2024-2025 season.